So I'm going to just take a little poll here. How many people in here like sugar? Okay. Susan's the only one. Good for you, Susan.
Wow.
How many of you ate sugar over the holidays?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How many probably ate a little too much sugar over the holidays?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. So, full disclosure here, I probably had more than I planned on. Okay, I'm blaming Carmen for that. She brought me some stuff, and
Yeah.
I took it home, and I wasn't planning on eating very much, and, well, what can I say?
But it was there.
So, yeah, it was there. So anyway, so do you think we have a sugar problem in this country?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Okay.
Yeah.
So can anybody give me, we're going to go over this here in a minute in the talk, but I'm just going to ask you first. What would you say, if you were to think of one primary way that sugar affects the body in a negative way, what would it be?
Inflammation.
Diabetes?
Okay, that's a pretty good answer, Jason. What did you say, Carmen?
Inflammation.
Inflammation. It inflames the body. Okay. Now, what's interesting is the day after Christmas, there's a lot of patients that came in that were not doing well. They were doing well before Christmas, and the question I'd ask them is, did you have a lot of sugar, over the holiday? Oh yeah, I ate. Well, yeah, I ate more than I should have. And every one of them, But sugar inflames the body. It causes inflammation. And inflammation causes what? Pain. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're going to do a little history of sugar and how we got to where we are now. It was first really cultivated in the slave plantations in the Caribbean, which made sugar a lot more plentiful and cheaper, which is sad. It's one of the sad commentaries of our history. But in the Caribbean islands, that's where a lot of it was grown. The tobacco industry found that when you marinate tobacco in sugar and you roll it into cigarettes, it becomes a lot more addicting and it tastes better. It delivers more nicotine to the lungs, and people get addicted to cigarettes. So they found when they cured tobacco and sugar, it made a big difference in their sales, because before the tobacco industry learned this, their cigarettes tasted pretty bad, and they weren't nearly as addictive as they are now. Now, sugar played a key role in the explosive growth of the tobacco industry, and it helped cause a lung cancer epidemic that followed. During World War II, it was before my time, Coke and Pepsi both gave their products to servicemen worldwide, and Coca-Cola even used German and Japanese POWs in their bottling plants, okay, which helped their international profile and success. So Coke and Pepsi, saw the war as an opportunity more than anything else. Towards the end of the war, there were a lot of people touting sugar and candy as stimulants to make our warriors more effective, which is pretty crazy, but that's the way it was back then. For much of the 20th century, so we're talking about the 1900s, the science on sugar was not very good. And it was not until the latter part of the 20th century that researchers discovered the impact of sugar on hormones and metabolism. When I was a kid growing up in the 50s, 60s, sugar was not that big of a deal. Because there wasn't that much known about nutrition back then. So one of the early theories, and this was propagated heavily in the sugar industry, that diabetes was caused by too much fat and not too much sugar. Okay, I know you look at me and you go, I can't believe that, but it was true. Okay, so sugar was exonerated, and it was actually considered a fun food. Harmless, fun food. Now, in the 1950s, the American Sugar Refinery Company tried to convince, or they advertised that sugar was good and important for children, that it was indispensable in the diet. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember in the early 60s, we used to go down to the local, convenience store and buy, 16-ounce bottles of Orange Crush and, hot tamales and all the other things. We did that. It wasn't until I got to chiropractic college I started really understanding the importance of good nutrition. The sugar industry convinced the FDA. You remember the big saccharin thing? Okay, that was a sugar industry that caused that. Saccharin never caused cancer. It was a sugar industry that convinced people that it did.
My dad went out and bought all the cyclamates he could find.
Yeah.
He's like, we're just going to go ahead and drink them. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and it was the sugar industry convinced the FDA with very little evidence that, the amount of cyclamates that you would have to eat to cause cancer was enormous. Now, this is where Harvard got involved. So Harvard, what the sugar industry did was it co-opted Harvard professors to be their spokespeople. So they paid them really good money to promote the sugar industry and to promote propaganda. So let's go back to the 70s, maybe 80s, late 60s. Who would doubt a Harvard professor?
Right.
Nobody. Nobody's going to doubt it. If a Harvard professor says something, you believe it, okay? It's like the New England Journal of Medicine came out with a big article. This is just an aside, no extra charge for this information. Okay, they came out with an article last summer that said inoculating pregnant women with COVID shots doesn't do any more, doesn't cause any more miscarriages than a normal woman than normal. And some research, and I didn't read that article. I heard about it though, but then some research, people are really good on research, read the article and they looked at the statistics. They said this is a sloppy mess.
Yes.
This is a lie. This isn't even true. And they forced the New England Journal of Medicine to make corrections. And when they found, and see, what I'm saying is that the New England Journal of Medicine is one of the most revered medical journals in the world. And they made a huge bundling mistake in this study. And they had to come back and correct it. And the number of miscarriages when it was corrected was 82% higher. Okay? But you didn't hear that in the news. Okay? So the reason I'm bringing that subject up is because, you get these people from Harvard that are paid by the sugar industry, and people believe them, okay? Because it's prestige. Now, here's another one. This is Mark Hegstead, and he helped promote low-fat foods. He was paid by the sugar industry. Now, this is a guy that I remember being interviewed on TV years and years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember an interview with him, and he was a cantankerous, angry, belligerent human being. And the guy interviewing him had the scoop that sugar was bad. He was this younger guy, and he was just saying, when are you going to shut up so I can, tell the truth about sugar? He was just belligerent. And he said, sugar's a fun food. I still remember that interview. It was decades ago. I think I saw it on like one of the morning shows on TV. So another player in the sugar industry was Howard Moskowitz, another Harvard-trained scientist. And he created the bliss point in processed foods where you have the perfect combination of sugar, salt, artificial flavors, and fat to get people to overeat.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what's happened in our culture, big time. Okay, so if you look at most of your snack foods, there's it's very well engineered to satisfy this point in a human brain that where you're it's just the perfect combination where you just want to eat more and more and more. So I mean, how many of you feel this way about broccoli? You know, I just can't get enough broccoli. I'll eat till I throw up. You know, I mean, nobody. But when it comes to snack foods, that's what this guy was able to do. Okay. Now, the 2015 to 2020 dietary guidelines for Americans recommends restriction sugar to 10% or 10 to 12 teaspoons of your daily calories, about the same amount found in a 12-ounce Coke. Personally, I think that's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, if I drank a 12-ounce Coke, I wouldn't feel very good at all. So I think that's too much. The National Institute of Health recommends 9 teaspoons for men, 6 teaspoons for women. So the sugar industry took this study and they answered it with another study. And they said that this study was funded by the North American branch of the International Life Sciences Institute, which sounds good. It's a trade group representing Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, you know, the candy companies, Pepsi, okay? So what, you think they're gonna come out with a study that says their products hurt people?
Nope.
Absolutely not. They're not going to.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is it 6 teaspoons for women and 9 for men?
Because men are bigger.
Oh.
Bigger, you know, they're generally,
I know there was a reason. I just didn't
generally
know.
bigger and they can handle more, theoretically.
Okay.
You know, so.
Thank you.
So a study published in 2016, which reviewed 60 studies on between funding and study outcome, okay? Of the 60 studies, the 26 that found no link between sugary drink and obesity or diabetes were all funded by the beverage industry.
Wow.
It's like in research, they've done studies with pharmaceutical companies and they've studied the outcomes of their studies, and they found that a very, very, very high percentage of pharmaceutical companies that do studies on their own drugs come out with very favorable opinion and outcome on their pharmaceuticals. You know, it's the same, it's no different here, okay? So one study came to the highly unlikely conclusion that eating candy may help prevent weight gain. I mean, can you believe that?
Oh.
I mean, you have to be like I don't know who could believe something like that.
Exactly.
Now, I did have a patient today. I was telling her about this talk, and I said, you need to be there tonight. She's not here. Okay, and she says, she said this seriously. She says, you mean sugar's not good for you?
Oh, no.
She said that. So, I mean, maybe she's watching now. She might get mad at me. But you know, so there are people out there that still believe that. So Coca-Cola and Pepsi backed research that came to the highly improbable conclusion that drinking diet soda is more helpful to weight loss than pure water. I mean, diet soda has chemicals in it that actually are harmful to the brain,
Right.
neurological system.
What about sugar-free stuff?
That's what that is.
Oh,
or
diet.
sugar-free
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Diet.
Okay,
Right.
sugar-free, okay.
So, if Americans followed the new sugar guidelines, it would cut junk food companies' profits by 50%. And so they basically the junk food industry misleads the public with junk science. Okay. Now let's talk about complications of sugar. What happens when you have a high sugar diet? What are some of the things that happen? Okay, so let's look at it. Sugar causes chromium and copper deficiencies. Sugar interferes with the absorption of calcium and magnesium. So what do you think this would cause here? People on a high sugar diet, if this is the case.
Brittle bones.
Yeah, osteoporosis, osteopenia, a lot sooner in life, and muscle spasms.
Yeah.
And what you find is the studies have shown that when people eat a lot of sugar, it dumps calcium and magnesium into the urine. So sugar, here's the thing you need to understand about this slide. Sugar feeds cancer. It's like Miracle Grow for cancer. Okay, it feeds cancer. Now I do a whole talk just on cancer and the physiology of cancer. Probably going to do this next year sometime. But sugar, just remember, sugar feeds cancer, interferes with antibody production. Okay, so sugar causes a lot of problems, the GI tract, indigestion, malabsorption, colitis, Crohn's disease. And I find that when my patients stay off of sugar, really good things happen in their bodies, and they tell me about it. Okay, so I know lots of people, including myself, that like now I generally don't eat a lot of sugar, but in January I'm like doing a no sugar January, 1 meal a day, vegetables. I mean, it's like I'm really going hard. I do that every January, but really going hardcore. Sugar also affects autoimmune disease. Now, here's something that if you don't get anything else from this talk, get this. Okay, too much sugar will change your gut bacteria, which will alter moods and mental function. Okay, there's this gut-brain connection. Okay, so when you eat a lot of sugar, what it does is it messes with your gut bacteria. It sends messages through the vagus nerve up to the brain that produces things like depression and anxiety. So we've got, did you know, and you probably know this, that depression, clinical depression, is like either the first or the second most common cause of disability. It's either lower back or depression. So depression, way up there, okay? Why do you think there's a correlation between our diets and the anxiety and depression that people have? When people come in, and when I have a patient comes in to me, a functional medicine patient, they sit down and they say, you know, I just need help with anxiety and depression. That's one of the things I need help with. First thing I do is we're going to fix their gut because of this connection. Now, years ago, back in 2007, 2008, 2009, when I was first starting full force in functional medicine, we didn't know this. We didn't know this stuff. This is like last 10 years. This research has really come out in a big way. We know it now. We know that a lot of these psychiatric, there's a, I didn't put her name up here. There's a psychiatrist associated with Harvard Medical School now that's the head of a department in one of the big hospitals in Boston, that they have a whole department now just on diet and brain function, healing psychiatric disorders through diet. Okay, I just read about that this morning, actually. Very interesting. And what this psychiatrist is saying is all the sugar that people are eating that are causing this. And if you can get them to change their diets and eat whole, real food, they can really change their mood and change the way their brains function. So sugar, if you look at people that have a high sugar diet, they age fast. They get wrinkles. Sugar causes wrinkles. It changes the structure of collagen, and you age a lot faster. Sugar lowers your vitamin E, which can initiate the autoimmune process. Sugar causes toxemia during pregnancy and contribute to eczema in children.
Wow.
It can impair the structure of your DNA. It can cause pathological increase in kidneys and cause kidney stones. Okay, so if you have a problem with kidney stones, you may want to really think about how much sugar that you eat. Sugar lowers the ability of enzymes to function. Enzymes are absolutely crucial in the body. So what are enzymes made of? What are enzymes? Anybody know? Okay, all enzymes, remember this, are proteins.
Oh.
Proteins are made of amino acids.
Okay.
So the reason I'm saying that is because people that don't absorb protein very well, and you can see it on their blood work, cannot make the enzymes necessary to make their bodies work right. Very important that you're able to digest and assimilate protein. That's why I give out things like Zypan, Digest Forte, products like that to help the body digest protein. Another thing you can do to help with that is take a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar when you eat. That's helpful. And so, that's fairly inexpensive. So enzymes are really, really important in the body. When you get a high fever, you heard of people dying from a high fever. The reason they die is because heat inactivates enzymes, so your body can't function properly. Okay, sugar can damage your pancreas and compromise the lining of your capillaries. So when you eat too much sugar, it makes your platelets stickier. What happens when you have sticky platelets?
Stroke.
Yeah.
They started
Clot.
they started adhering to your arteries, and you get clots. Okay, so you don't want that. Sugar slows down the ability of your adrenal glands to function. Sugar, this is actually a very diplomatic way of saying it. Sugar just beats the tar out of your adrenal glands, if you want to know the truth. What do your adrenal glands do? Are they even necessary?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yeah, they're necessary.
Okay, what do they do?
If I'm not mistaken, don't they have something to do with your emotions?
Your emotions probably affect your adrenals.
Oh,
Okay. Your adrenal glands produce all your sex hormones.
yeah,
They produce cortisol. They
Right.
produce adrenaline.
right.
So like they're a backup for like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. They produce adrenaline. They produce cortisol. So sugar just beats the heck out of your adrenals, and early on the cortisol levels will rise. So what happens when your cortisol levels go up and stay up for a while?
I was very hyper.
You
It's
can get
stress.
hyper, but what
Very
happens
stressed.
to your body? What changes happen in your body? Yes.
Fatigue.
What?
Fatigue.
Fatigue is later on, Terry, but
Okay.
that's not too bad of an answer. Actually, you gain weight right around here.
Oh, okay.
That's what happens when your adrenals, when you're under a lot of stress, whether it's dietary stress, cortisol levels go up, it deposits weight in the middle. Okay, so sugar promotes all your chronic degenerative diseases, can cause epileptic seizures, it causes high blood pressure in obese people. I mean, by the way, hypertension, high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor of landing in the hospital with COVID on a ventilator. Obesity is #2. So if you can decrease, and what did most people do? I shouldn't say most people, a lot of people do when they were locked down with COVID.
They
Eat a lot of
ate-
Sat home and ate sugar.
You bet.
Yep.
And they gained
Stress,
weight. A
yep.
lot of them, not everybody, but a lot of people did. And people have told me that's what happened to them.
Yep.
So you don't want to do that. Sugar may induce cell death. Sugar can increase your risk of gout. Sugar can cause headaches, including migraines.
Yes.
I've had people tell me that when they stopped eating sugar, their headaches went away or got better. Sugar can increase your risk of Alzheimer's disease. We know that. They call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes now. So you've got to be really, really careful about that. Diets with lots of added sugar contribute a lot to chronic spinal pain. Okay, and I have a really good article on this do we still have that, copies of that? I've got copies in the back. If you wanted a copy of that article, it's very good. It shows that people that eat a lot of sugar tend to have more back pain and neck pain. So this is out of Mercola back in 2011. For the first time in history, lifestyle diseases are killing more people than communicable diseases. If you could prevent these lifestyle diseases, we'd save the healthcare system about $1 trillion a year. It's a lot of money, okay? Now the food industry would suffer, okay? It would. So if we stopped eating junk food and fast food, there's a lot of people that would lose their jobs and they have to transition over to something else, but we'd be a lot healthier country, a lot more productive country. This is David Ludwig, a Harvard-affiliated pediatrician, wrote in JAMA. He says the way that we need to fix this is we need to restructure subsidies of what we subsidize. So what do you mean by that? Anybody? Anybody know?
Stop giving the foods to the bad sugar people, start giving it to the good.
Okay, but what specific subsidy is it? What thing does the government subsidize? What specific thing that causes that really churns this whole sugar mess?
Corn.
Corn, absolutely. Corn. And what is it about corn that does that?
The corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup. Yeah. So the government subsidizes the growth of corn. They put it in everything. People eat it, and then they use Medicare and Medicaid money from the government to go to the doctor to get drugs and treatment. It's a crazy system. Okay? You need to regulate the marketing of food to children. How many, when you were little, used to watch those breakfast food commercials and you just want to go out? I mean, you go with your parents to the store, you start grabbing like crazy, you know? And I recently, I was in Omaha at the Embassy Suites in the old market on the 29th of October. And Thelma and I spent the night there, and we got up and ate their breakfast. They were touting how great their breakfast was, and I didn't think it was good at all. But one of the things I was watching was what people were eating, and the number one thing that people went after, and it was like, there's almost a line. Anybody want to take a guess?
Donuts.
Cereal.
What kind of cereal?
Corn Fruit Loops.
No.
Fruit Loops.
Oh,
It was
dear.
the Fruit Loops. That's right. And what are Fruit Loops? It's sugar and chemicals and food coloring, you know, held together by something. It's Fruit Loops. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like, talk about a non-food food. So they need to adequately fund school lunch programs.
That's the truth.
And have healthy lunches. But I mean, here's the problem with the healthy lunches, that kids are so used to eating junk food, they won't eat healthy lunches. That's the issue. They throw it away,
Yeah.
you know? And then, you know, allowing the food industry more profitability by producing healthy products. And I don't think that's a bad idea, actually.
Well, what's the difference between, you said once that fruits have sugar in them. What's the difference between bad sugar and good sugar, like in fruits?
Well, you know, fruits also contain a lot of fiber.
Okay.
They contain a lot of vitamins and minerals to help digest the sugar that's in them.
Okay.
They contain a lot of phytonutrients,
Okay.
which are very powerful antioxidants.
Okay.
So when you get a fruit, you're getting like the whole food. Plus, fruits have chemicals in that we haven't even like figured out yet.
Okay.
And we don't know everything that's in. Like, you know, you get, let's say a mango.
Right.
You know, mangoes are pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fiber in them. There's things in fruit that our body actually needs.
Okay.
Now, part of the problem with fruit is that it's been engineered now to have a lot more sugar in it. You know, and that's the issue there. So I was just reading the other day that what do you think the most healthful fruits are? If you were to, I'm just reading this. Now, this is this guy's opinion, but it was pretty, I thought it was pretty good.
Bananas and apples.
You see it, bananas and apples. What would you say?
I'd say strawberries.
Strawberries. Okay.
Blueberries.
I'd
Okay.
say grapefruit also.
Okay.
Grapefruit.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, those are good answers.
Avocado?
Avocado. Is it a fruit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This particular guy was saying blackberries and raspberries.
Interesting.
Sure.
Okay. I'm not saying he's right. That's just what he said. Okay. So he said blueberries used to be, but they're being engineered for a lot of sugar, a lot of, you know, fruit sugar now. He had strawberries was on the list. So
Yeah.
the problem with strawberries is they're sprayed with so many chemicals. So anyway, that's what he said. So So what do you is anybody going to change anything based on this, what I just talked about? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge sugar eater, but it's good for me to do this talk because I have to do these things myself, So what are your takeaways? Probably it might be a good idea in January to maybe take a month off from sugar, a month off from processed foods, and let your body heal a little bit, and what I found in practice at least, is that people that tend to eat a lot of sugar don't hold their adjustments nearly as well. They come out of adjustment easier.
Interesting.
And so when people that eat a more whole food diet, work out more, tend to hold their adjustments better. So that's a really good thing to think about if you're under chiropractic care, is that if you eat real food and a lot less sugar, you're going to need less you're going to need less of meat. Okay, so and that's okay. I want you to be healthy. I want people to be healthy. So that's all I have for tonight. 7:00. Hope you enjoyed the talk. Hope you eat a lot less sugar this year, and because I plan on eating a whole lot less. And thank you so much for coming. God bless you guys.